his popularity, that he wouldn't expect that something like that would get a lot of attention. And then that's what makes Dale Jr. Dale Jr. And I think what for a lot of us who really follow him have come to appreciate about him as a person and a race car driver. And I got to tell you, a lot of Dale Jr. Has got to be, and what we know about him now has got to be because of Amy, right? I mean, it really seems as if she sort of knew what Dale Jr. and who Dale Jr. was, and it almost like she wanted other people to also see what kind of guy he really was, and got him to sort of come out of his shell, really going back to 2014 and that win in the Daytona 500. That was really the moment that Dale Jr. came out of his shell and began really conversing with the fans. And, he's one of the, there's many of them, but just in my world, he's one of those celebrities, athlete celebrities, that really utilizes Twitter in a great way. I mean, I think once a week he does, his Twitter Q&As, and it gives fans like us the opportunity to ask him questions and to have a brief conversation and access to an individual that we wouldn't normally have access to. I mean, in what circumstance would you or me have to sit in a room in a Q&A and get up and be able to ask, Dale Earnhardt Jr. questions? I mean, I suppose it's happened, but Twitter provides such an opportunity for just brief conversations to go back and forth in circumstances and more personal questions. I think that's probably the bigger issue. You may have been to Q&As with Dale Jr. in the past, like at a racetrack, but you're also going to be picking those questions very, very carefully because you don't want to waste the opportunity. Where on Twitter, you can get to know the guy a little bit better. You can ask him some of the sillier questions, and you can get into talking paint schemes or football, or in this instance, concussions related to sports. And I think it really was Amy who kind of brought him out of his shell, and I think a lot of his fans can thank her for that, because it's provided a different dynamic to this thing that entertains us in our lives called NASCAR and our fandom of Dale Earnhardt Jr. All right, let's move over to Martinsville. So here's what happened. I'm at work on Friday, and truth be told, I keep an eye on when the practices are going to be, and I will put up NASCAR.com on my website at work. During the commercial breaks, when I'm not going blah 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 blah, I'll hop on and take a look at how Dale Jr. is doing on the speed charts, and I'll keep an eye. I have TweetDeck open, so I'll keep an eye on Twitter and see what comments he's making about the car. So it was kind of fun because Friday, right when my show started, was right when practice started. So I got on the air, did the first break. It was about 20 after 8 o'clock, and I clicked over to NASCAR to check out the speeds, and Dale Jr. was sitting on top of the speed chart. And it was like, it's Friday, last show of the week, NASCAR's been gone for a week, and there's my favorite driver sitting on the top of the speed chart. That thing that I say you don't need to pay attention to because it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. But we are talking about the practice before qualifying. So in this case, it actually, it had some relevance. So I'm all excited. I'm like, dude, yes, boom. And I tweeted it out, Dale Jr.'s top of the speed chart. Awesome. Really excited. He's done well there. He wants to get another grandfather clock. He's won there in the past couple of years. So I do the next break, and I pop back over, and then I see that Dale Jr.'s like all the way down in 16th. I hadn't bothered, and usually I'm better about this, but I hadn't bothered to go to look to see how many cars had actually gone out on the track, and only like half the field had gone out on the track at that time when Dale Jr. had the fastest lap. And that's when I started to get a little bit worried, because it didn't seem like they were ever able to really bring it up any higher than like 15th or 16th. And unfortunately, when it came to qualifying, he didn't do much better either. He ended up qualifying in 21st, It's interesting, though, because you got some pretty big names around him, especially in Martinsville. I mean, Kevin Harvick, and he's the guy that I'm kind of been keeping my eye on, and Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Kevin Harvick qualified 19th, Dale Jr. 21st, Kurt Busch 23rd, Jimmy Johnson 24th, Carl Edwards 25th. It still looks like you've got a smattering of the Gibbs guys and the Penske guys that seem to have qualifying figured out, and the Chevy guys seem to be just a miss on qualifying this year. And, I don't know if it has to do with the race package or not. Certainly the low downforce package shouldn't have as much significance at Martinsville, right? You're not really aero dependent at Martinsville. So I know that on the Dale Jr. Download and on the TJ Majors Door Bumper Clear podcasts, they were talking about how they were perhaps going to be finding or trying some new techniques to qualify better. Certainly they haven't done that yet. I know that they spent the first part of the first practice in race trim and only did a couple of runs in qualifying trim. So, maybe they weren't all that focused on it. I'm not worried, though, because when you go and look at the 10 consecutive lap averages, I mean, he's up there in the top 5. And what I like most about it is the guys that are around him. Because this is what I look at. So the guys in 1, 2, and 3 in consecutive 10-lap averages, Brian Vickers, Ryan Newman, Kyle Larson. I don't anticipate those 3 guys. No, I don't. I was going to say Brian Vickers maybe, but there's just not enough consistency there. See, I don't anticipate those guys being there at the end. I would consider Dale Earnhardt Jr. to be there at the end. Now, the other guys around him, Jimmy Johnson, 5th, 10 consecutive lap average. Casey Kane, Martin Truex Jr. You got to go all the way down to 17th to Kevin Harvick, and then Joey Logano's down in 14th. Now, Joey Logano, snagged the pole, but the lap averages is what really matters at Martinsville. And what matters at Martinsville, too, as it relates to the consistency, is Dale Jr. can be very methodical, and he can get into a rhythm, and he's really done, over the past several years, a much better job of taking care of his stuff, especially at Martinsville. So if you've got a car in the top 5 consecutive lap averages that can maintain speed over the long run, because usually you end up getting a long run at some point, at Martinsville. First off, coming back from 21st is not something that's not overcomable. Okay, starting in 21st, you get in a handful of laps, you could be easily cracking the top 10. Then once you're in the top 10, you get a long run, you just start picking off drivers, you'll be okay. But when you've got a car that was fast, and clearly it was fast off the truck apart from qualifying, then Dale Jr. has an opportunity to just take it easy. Get up there in the top 5, and then just take care of your stuff until the end, until you're, closing in on those final, with Martinsville, oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I guess when you're down to like the final 100 laps, 50 laps, you've really got to be up there battling, because those laps tick off fast, just like at Bristol. But that's what has me excited. Always the lap averages are what's important, but if the car is fast and comfortable, which it certainly seems like it is based off of some of his comments during practice, then we've got a good scenario. Then we've got an opportunity to, okay, can we compete for the win in this particular race? So the goal on Sunday is going to be get up into that top 10 as quickly as possible and then just save the stuff until the end. Now, let's just go ahead and dive right into the prediction for this weekend's race. I'm going for the win. I'm going for broke. I say Dale Earnhardt Jr. puts that number 88 silver and blue Nationwide Chevrolet in victory lane this weekend. I think that the off weekend helps to remove sort of the bad taste of Auto Club Speedway. I think the team has shown some consistency. I think Dale Jr. has a lot of confidence. His attitude seems to be really good. And the cars have not been very fast off the truck over the course of the first few races of the season, and they've still been able to produce some pretty decent wins. We got a car now at a track that he loves to race at, where he's won recently, that is fast off the truck and fast in practice, I think we got an opportunity to sit in victory lane this weekend. So that's my prediction, that Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins at Martinsville and then has to go and find another spot. Maybe he can go and put the grandfather clock in the treehouse, right? Because I'm not sure Amy's going to want another one like out by the pool. So there you go. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast again this week. And as always, please subscribe on iTunes, The John Justice Show, My Nerd World. Drop me a rating or a comment there. I would appreciate it. I want to mention, and I don't usually bring this up, but mynerdworld.com. That's the website. That's where all the podcasts are. The thing that makes it convenient at the website, there's not a lot there apart from just the links to the podcasts. What I've done is I've set it up so if you're just listening because you're a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan and you just want to hear the race preview podcast, if you go to mynerdworld.com, you can click on the Dale Jr. car on the homepage, and you can just go and listen to whichever one you want. As opposed to having to go into iTunes and download it specifically, you can go there, click on it, and listen to it right there. You can also do that with my show and my Star Wars and movie podcasts. They're just all separated by category as opposed to having to pick and choose. And so I've just tried to make it a little bit easier. And mynerdworld.com eventually will grow and get bigger. But that is the place where if you are interested in listening to my podcast, it's the easiest place to just go and find what you want. It's convenient. Just click on the icon, whether it's the X-Wing Fighter, Dale Jr.'s car, or the John Justice Show logo. I also put some videos up from when we had the TV show. All available there at the website at again, mynerdworld.com. If you ever want to drop me an email, you are always encouraged to do so if you have any comments or anything you'd like me to cover on the podcast that I have not gone and done. You can email me at talkshownerd@gmail.com. talkshownerd@gmail.com. So, again, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook, John Jon Justice. And until next week, go Junior.
My Nerd World.
And finally, one of the most unusual pre-race prayers you will ever hear.
Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all your blessings. You said in all things give thanks. So we want to thank you tonight for these mighty machines that you've brought before us. Thank you for the Dodges and the Toyotas. Thank you for the Fords. And most of all, we thank you for Roush and Yates partnering to give us the power